And now, from the studios of Renegade Talk Radio in Maui, Hawaii, and the southwestern Arizona desert, it's time for the RaunchFoxxx Foxxcast. With your host, 6'10" RaunchFoxxx, the Big D, Mike Davis, and one slick bitch, NATTY C.
My God.
So sit back, strap in, and get ready for another great ride. Here's your host, RaunchFoxxx.
And hey, what is up, everybody? It is RaunchFoxxx and RaunchFoxxx Foxxcast. It's episode 6 here on RenegadeTalkRadio.com, where we don't sugarcoat shit on any part of this network, just like Richie and Marla, and we say exactly what the hell you are thinking. We are not shy. That's what we do. And today, ladies and gentlemen, it's hello to some old faces back after missing like a fucking Malaysian jetliner. She's back. She's back. She's in action. And it is the one, the only Natty C. How are you, my dear? How have you been?
Awesome. I've been missing in action, but excited to be back because I hear we have some fresh meat to play with.
Yeah, well actually we do. And, of course, I always call it that after I take a sitz bath for any 20-minute time. But certainly it is fresh. We also have a new guy. We're going to say first a big goodbye and thank you to our pooper scooper gentleman, Big Mike Davis, who was moving on to some other things. And we had a lot of fun with Mike. I don't know what he's got a great job and puts a lot of hours in. And he probably gets pretty tied up during the week, but we appreciated everything that Big D did when he came and he brought some funny stories. And he's the only guy I know that got a DUI on a bicycle, Natty. I don't know about you.
I don't know anybody else that has done that, so that was pretty awesome.
Yes, it was. That's it. It was. But, the cool thing about editing, when we have a delay like that, I can just fucking cut it out, and it sounds like you answer me right away. So with that being said, we got a new guy in town, the fresh meat, as the Natty puts it. I don't know if that means we're going to call him FM or not, because that's kind of like a radio slogan, if you will. But ladies and gentlemen, we have a new guy in the house. He's going to be our conspiracy theorist. His name's PAULLYWOOD. And he's all the way over there on the East Coast. PAULLYWOOD, how are you, my friend?
Raunch, I'm doing great. And as far as the fresh meat's concerned, there's really not a lot of meat on my bones, but if either of the two of you want to play with it, we are more than welcome.
And how tall are you, and how much do you weigh? What's your height and weight?
I weigh about 135 pounds, soaking wet.
Okay, I'm not talking about my dick. We're talking about your body. So you're 135 soaking wet, and you were like 5'7", 5'8"? I'm guessing. I have no idea.
No. 6 feet tall. I'm literally a beanpole here.
Are you 6 foot tall, really? Well, it's
time I measured.
Okay. Well, it's 6'10", you never know what's going to happen. Well, that's good. Well, we're glad to have you. And, you're a nut. This guy's an absolute insane nut. He's got a lot to say, as you're going to find out. He makes us look at things differently. In fact, he makes Jesse Ventura look like Miss Sally on Romper Room. So you're going to love this guy when he's doing his thing. I don't know if you know Natty or Paulie. Time Warner, they were voted America's worst company in an online poll by the blog Consumerist. I mean, I called, I did. I actually called him up. I was trying to get a comment, from Time Warner, but fuck it. I said to hell with this after I sat on hold for 2 hours. I was like, well, let's just forget that. Yeah, it's true. I don't know about you guys. Any of you, Paulie, you had an experience with Time Warner before?
As a matter of fact, Raunch, just about a week ago, they showed up at my house. They were going to shut down my service. Managed to get them to keep it on. I won't tell you how. But, I don't understand why they're, when you talk about worst company, do you mean worst company to work for or worst company to deal with?
Well, I would assume it's probably like CSI, customer support, consumer, the index, that type of thing. Worst company.
Well, let's see. You're all the way out in Arizona. I'm here in New York, so they're pretty widespread. I mean, maybe it's one of those situations where they kind of feel that they don't have to worry about customer relations anymore.
I don't know. I mean, the guy, he hasn't been right since he stuck his dick in Jane Fonda. So, I don't know about that. But anyway, hey, Natty, I don't know if you're a baseball fan, but this Sunday is opening day.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, sure. You know what they say? The average fan is going to spend like $125 per game now.
That's outrageous. Outrageous.
Oh my God,
125 for what?
Well, I mean, once they pay for the parking, then it's on to the stadium, though. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, let me ask you something. You know, the Pope has been cracking down on the friggin' mafia lately. You know, and being at the Vatican and everything else. He's saying the mafia is going to hell. It's going to hell. And, I mean, the bottom line so are grocery clerks who allow people with more than 10 items in the 10 items or less line. But the mafia is a little bit tougher. In fact, let me tell you, I mean, you know, he addressing the evils of this, it's like a $250 billion worldwide crime empire. You know, Pope Francis, he warned all the big chiefs. He says, you know, you're going to end up burning in hell for eternity if you don't change your ways. So, this guy's new to Italy. Apparently, he's never heard of cement sandals. You know, he's got to be careful what he's talking about. Any of you been following?
However, I got to say he's pretty cool though. I mean, he dropped the F-bomb.
Yeah, he's doing a lot. Yeah, he's totally he's more hip. He's more hip.
Yeah.
Obama smokes weed, and everybody's going to be. This is the cool kids world government that we're talking about. So, you know, the GA conference. The Hague they got kicked out. They kicked out Russia at the G8 conference, you know, with all this stuff going on, and they kicked Russia out. So now it's the G7, and it's the U.S., Germany, France, England, Canada, Tito, and Germain. Yeah, what do you? You know what I'm saying? How many of you go to Starbucks?
No Starbucks.
Daily.
Huh? Never.
No, what?
Never?
Come on.
I thought they called it $6 anyway. Well, you know, I mean, the reason I say this, you know, everybody thinks about coffee and drinks, but they're actually offering a dinner menu. And they've got dishes like Parmesan crusted chicken skewers with honey Dijon sauce and chocolate fondue with a dried fruit medley. I mean, unfortunately, everything still arrives in a paper cup with a slide-on cardboard heat sleeve. That's the only fucking problem with all that expensive food. You know? Also, there was a story. 2 senior citizens, they took advantage of the early bird menu at a South Carolina Golden Corral. These 2 old geezers, they get in a food fight. They're choosing items at the fried chicken chuck wagon. One was arrested on a charge of assault with a deadly capron. Oh, yeah, that's all right. It's just a capon joke if you like chicken. Anyway, I'm sorry. Hey, I don't know if you've been listening to the news last couple of days. Did you hear there's another story about Obama's Secret Service agents getting drunk on the job? And, actually, one of the Secret Service agents, he got suspended. He was found drunk. But apparently his secret is out now. So what are you going to do? And, we had a segment last week. Paulie, you weren't with us, but Big D was talking about things that were turning 50. Well, remember Jennifer Grey from Dirty Dancing? Natty, you remember her, right? Jennifer Grey?
Yes.
Well,
yes. Don't put her in a corner.
No, she turned 54 recently. She turned 54. Somebody apparently pissed her off at the party because they put her cake in the corner. You know, so I mean, what are you going to do? They did. They put it in the corner. Straight up, but she's a nice lady. Los Angeles subway construction workers, they unearthed the prehistoric fossils that are 2 million years old. These subway construction, I mean, these fossils are in mint condition. You know they're indigenous to L.A. because despite the carbon dating of their bones, they all claim to be only 1 million years old. Yeah, you know the fuckers there. Over in Silicon Valley, I read a story about a tech entrepreneur. He bought a world record $200 million life insurance policy this week. I mean, it's a great racket. In life insurance, I bet you, the insurer, that I'm going to die, and then you bet me I'm going to live. And then I pay you a fortune hoping you fucking win. So that's the way it rolls over there. And lastly, Paulie and Natalie, as we like to spoof the news, which is what I do, there's a professor over at Virginia Tech. He's developed a process that can make food out of wood chips. It's a pretty big story now, which is not good news for people who think there's already too much pulp in their orange juice. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, ladies and germs, that's how we see the news in and around the world here on the Foxxcast.
200 million year old fossils. What did they dig up?
Yeah, well, leave Joan Rivers out of this. Right? I mean, It is what it is. So stick around, folks. When we come back, we're going to be talking about a lot of things. Obviously, we're going to open up with the Malaysian jetliner, and we're going to introduce you to PAULLYWOOD, our new guy. So you keep it where you got it right here on RenegadeTalkRadio.com. It's RaunchFoxxx Foxxcast with yours truly, Raunch Fox, Natty C, PAULLYWOOD, and we'll be back right after this.
We'll be back with more of the RaunchFoxxx Foxxcast here on Renegade Talk Radio. No wins. You know if you belong. Stay tuned.
Hey, Renegade Nation.
Those guys are cocky jackasses. They don't give two shakes about anybody else's opinion but their own.
Looking for some real banter on the topics that count and even the ones that don't?
Are you ready?
For what?
Good, old-fashioned, all-American fun.
Then listen to Richie and Marla for your fix of the he said, she said bullshit. It's Richie and Marla's Renegade Talk, right here on Renegade Talk Radio. And for some dessert, check me out, Raunch Fox and my Foxxcast with Natty C and the Big D Mike Davis, right here on RenegadeTalkRadio.com.
I can make you laugh your balls or your tits off, okay? For the women out there.
When I found that 27 is the new 67, it got me thinking about my golden years. That's when I found 27th Heaven Retirement Home.
At 27th Heaven Retirement Home, old age starts the minute our doorman decides to let you in.
There are so many activities, I didn't know what to try first.
27th Heaven Retirement Home is more than a home, it's a community. Along with other seniors, you can enjoy boogie boarding, bungee jumping, and even the giant hot tub.
Hello, girl.
Come on in. We're so lonely and wet.
There's disco night with free shots for the first 50 ladies, mixed martial arts on the big screen, and beer pong.
Drink, 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 drink.
So don't let turning 27 slow you down. Now, old age begins when you retire at 27th Heaven Retirement Home.
RaunchFoxxx. Hey, it ain't gonna suck itself. What are you waiting on?
Looking to avoid foods that'll kill you, but still want flavor? Screw it. Eat red meat. A new study shows eating red meat increases your overall risk of death. But do you really want to live a long life if you have to spend it eating vegetables and tofu and crap like that? Didn't think so. Wouldn't you rather grill up a big old steak or throw back a few cheeseburgers and die happy? Red meat. Even though it'll send you to an early grave, it's what's for dinner.
Go ahead. Smoke your mouth. Is your drive hard? Do you have enough RAM? Bend over and let the Raunch upgrade your memory. The RaunchFoxxx Cyber Sickness. Oozing out of computers everywhere.
In these tough economic times, the Kremlin would like to introduce Putin Bucks, the one monetary standard for entire world.
Tell me more.
Featuring face of great leader Vladimir Putin, Putin Bucks are not just currency, they're a lot of fun. Trade them with your comrades, use them to start a fire to keep you warm at night, or eat them when you are hungry.
But where can I use them?
Redeemable just about everywhere we sell bread, toilet paper, and your favorite hair care products. They are backed by Russian government, so you know they are good.
Thanks, Vladimir.
So give us your old, unwanted, valuable American dollars and get in on the fun with Putin Bucks.
And now, back to the only white man that made Shaquille O'Neal look away in the men's locker room. RaunchFoxxx, packing more penis than a Lance Bass Elton John sausage fest.
All right, everybody. Hey, RaunchFoxxx, the RaunchFoxxx Foxxcast here, Renegade Talk Radio. Glad that you are with us this week. This is episode number 6. As we bid adieu to the Big D, Mike Davis, and hello to PAULLYWOOD. And, of course, Natty is back. And, they might have found pieces floating around in the ocean, but it was not any part of, you guessed it, Natty's breast enhancements. So we're okay with that. So Natty, and Paulie, let's talk about that for a minute, because everybody is, and you have to. Here it is 3 weeks later. The latest news on the Malaysian jet, as everybody, even if they don't want to, they know what's going on with this thing. Most recently, they say they find 122 objects floating obviously in the search for the Malaysian jet. Now, this is a French company. They've got 5 satellites they're mobilizing. This is in a bid to help the search crews locate the missing airline flight after it captured 122 objects that they say potentially, that's the key word here, potentially belong to the plane. These photographs were taken Sunday. Here it is Wednesday again, another one of those 3-day delays, and it was relayed by the French-based Airbus Defence and Space, which is a division of Europe's Airbus Group. Its businesses include the operation of satellites, satellite communications, and then, of course, I love this guy's name. It's Hishammuddin Hussein, who is Malaysia's acting transport minister. He announced that the findings on Wednesday, he said that the objects were seen close to where 3 other satellites previously detected possible debris in the southern Indian Ocean. Now, let's get off track for a minute. I don't know if you remember, Natty, I think you were with us about 10 or 14 days ago. I said, you know what, they're going to say that the plane went down in the deepest, most remote part of the Indian Ocean, over 38,000 foot deep. How convenient that's going to be. I mean, I feel sorry for the families, but I think that we have been jerked around so bad. When you think about the fact that they can spot a dime from a satellite in space, a dime on a sidewalk, yet 20,000 some satellites around the world, all the technology that we have, Natty, all the technology that we have, Paulie, and they lose this fucking plane. I'll say it each and every week. But now, in Australia, they didn't say whether they received the French imagery in time for search planes to go out to sea to look for the debris on Wednesday, but they didn't return the repeated phone call messages. Then they had a little bad weather, and then they say there's more thunderstorms and low clouds and strong winds on the way. And I wouldn't be surprised, Paul, if we didn't start that weather. But anyway, that's another story. So, Natty, what do you think? I mean, you think that they just wore us down after 3 weeks and said, okay, let's give them a scenario now, and everybody's dead and everybody's gone. And it's sad, indeed, it's sad. But I tell you, I'm having a hard time believing anything that they're throwing at us right now, especially when you think that they lost a Boeing 777 with all the technology that we have now today. What is your theory, Natty?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I remember you called it a couple of weeks back. You said that this is exactly what was going to happen, and here we are. They're feeding us some bullshit story, and I'm curious to see how it develops. But frankly, I'm concerned about the families of the quote-unquote victims in this thing. I mean, they're the ones, they were offered, $5,000?
Another slap in the face. Yeah, oh, hey, listen, we'll give you $5,000. And then remember, Malaysia, the government owns that airline. They got to save face some way, but that's really not a good way to do it. But here's what gets me. And, Paulie, I'm going to ask you to chime in for a minute, too. And the same thing happened the last couple times they spotted stuff, Natty. None of the objects were seen on a second pass. And it's been repeated several times in this hunt for for Flight 370. This has been going on since March 8th. 239 people. It still remains uncertain whether the objects came from the plane. But here's something that says they could have come from a cargo ship or something else. Well, I was talking to Rich, who did time. I don't know if it was Merchant Marines or Navy. Rich, forgive me for forgetting. Probably the Navy. But he said, Ray, let me tell you something. He says, that far out in the Indian Ocean, there are no fucking shipping lanes. There's shipping lanes, just like highways, just like runways. He says, and out there where that plane crashed, there was no shipping lane. So forget the bullshit about stuff coming from a cargo ship. Unless, of course, it fell off in a shipping lane and floated all the way out there. But he says, personally, I'm here to tell you, Raunch, he says, anything on that ship is tied down, man. He said if something falls off, somebody else would see it and ask where it came from. He said so he finds it hard to accept the fact that it was from a cargo ship. But if it's confirmed to be MH370, at least they're saying that they can move on to the next phase, which is deep sea surveillance searches. And we've got the submarines to get it done. Yes, we do. So, Paulie, you have some theories. Paulie is our conspiracy theorist, if you will, and he brings stuff to note that you won't read in the mainstream media. You hear about it maybe at the beginning. You heard Natty. Remember the first week they said there were like maybe 18 or 20 executives that had something to do with Freescale or some of these other companies. Paulie's got some feeling on that. So Paulie, share with Renegade Nation what you think about that particular situation, which they haven't really talked about since the first week.
Well, it's two things, actually, that I think about this. The first of which is something that you mentioned that kind of raises a little bit of a red flag with me, is that the fact that they weren't or not able to find the debris on a second pass with the satellite. To me, that is another convenient excuse for them to kind of keep the investigation open and to also make it from being anything conclusive. You know, that they don't necessarily have to resolve anything if they say, well, we can't find the debris anymore, so we don't know if we're really looking in the right spot. It kind of gives them an easy out if they aren't able to find anything. But interestingly enough, there were among those 20 passengers who worked for Freescale, there were 4 patent holders for a new chip that was released a day before that flight took off. And those 4 patent holders out of the 5 all died on the plane. And the remaining patent holder is Gordon, I believe it's Gordon, Rothschild. Now, people who are familiar with the conspiracy circuit will recognize that Rothschild name. They'll understand that it's something that's tied to International Monetary Fund banking, the Federal Reserve, and pretty much any dastardly and devious thing that has happened in the 20th century. You can trace it back to a Rothschild or somewhere in that family. You know, they've always had something, some kind of involvement. In both the International Monetary Fund, our Federal Reserve. They're one of the wealthiest families in the world, too. So if anything, it almost serves to provide a motive for a crime if such a thing were to have actually have occurred.
Okay, so what do you think?
Well, to me, it's a smoking gun.
Right.
So it's kind of a smoking gun. It's kind of a motivation, a motive. If it were a crime, if it were a deliberate takedown of that plane, then there's a reason, because somebody benefits from that, and of all people, a Rothschild.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Do you think? So what does that mean? That one of the pilots was paid off, or what about the suicide, or where did the plane end up, or who did they talk into doing it and crashing the plane?
A good question, Raunch, because when they started this investigation, as y'all remember, we were given so many different leads. First they were talking about these passports, these stolen passports, and then they were looking into the pilot himself, and they said that there was a flight simulator found on his computer that kind of matched the course that they suspected the plane took. So, with all of this inconclusive evidence, or all of these inconclusive theories kind of surfacing, it really just makes it all too convenient to me to leave the whole thing open-ended.
Okay, so let me ask Natalie something. Natty, they said they find 2 guys with stolen passports. I mean, what did you think when you first heard that? What was your first thought?
The whole thing reeks of cover-up as far as I'm concerned. Absolute cover-up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's total bullshit. I mean, honestly, here we are 3 weeks later. We're only just getting some news now as to where, the whereabouts of this particular aircraft here. We've been sitting here pins and needles. This whole passport fiasco has been going on in the background. I mean, honestly, really, do they think that we're that stupid that we're not going to think that the two are connected somehow, that there isn't some sort of cover-up deal going on? I mean, really, come on.
Yeah, some young whippersnapper probably said, be a martyr. Go down with the plane, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
And, and another thing that I heard, picture this, you're a pilot. Let's say there was a big mechanical failure. The lights went out. They couldn't deliver a beacon. They were just a plane in the sky flying. And think about this. They're heading into Vietnam airspace, but they're coming in dark, no signal. If someone tries to contact them, they can't respond. So if you're Vietnam and you've got a big plane coming in and you're not getting an answer, what are you going to do as a military unit? What's the first thing you're going to want to do?
You're going to want to shoot that fucker down.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so maybe the pilots said, we're in fucking trouble. We need to turn around and get the hell out of here. And hence that sharp left and flying west. But then they say that they had 6 or 7 hours more of flight time or whatever. It would seem that they could have found they could have had a place to land in that time period. So is it a cover-up? It's not even a good cover-up. We're quicker, slicker, faster, sharper, smarter. And, I feel so sorry for those families with all these stories that are coming out, and then pilot suicide and then Paulie with the executives. So Paulie, what were you going to say when we were talking to Natty? What were you just getting ready to say about that?
Well, maybe not so much a cover-up thing. I mean, when I first heard about the 2 passports, my initial reaction was, well, they're just trying to leave the door open for, an explanation regarding terrorism. And I think that that's still kind of a possibility. You know, of course, the only thing about this story that doesn't really reek of terrorism is that nobody stepped forward to claim responsibility for it. So, I mean, to me, you know, this whole story, as it's lasted for about 3 weeks now, it almost kind of seems like just one giant red herring. I almost think that the plane and its disappearance and everything else isn't even the story to begin with. That, you know, while this is all going on, there's so many other things happening in the world, but we're focused on this silly missing plane and the officials' inability to determine how it happened. And it's kind of a black eye. I mean, like you said, we have satellites that can spot a dime on a sidewalk. I mean, it's almost inexplicable that we lose a plane like this.
Well,
especially in this day and age.
I don't know if you remember, but the government, Malaysian government, and the officials from the airline, they went to Beijing. And they went over there to speak with the relatives of the passengers on board the plane. Now, the officials, they give this PowerPoint presentation. They read a report by the investigators, and this is from Britain's Air Accidents Investigation Branch, concluding that Flight 370 went down in the southern Indian Ocean. But the relatives were still skeptical. They're freaking out. They're screaming. They're crying. And they were getting very hostile. Now, this one guy named Zhang, he was from the Chinese city of Harbin. He's screaming, it's all lies. It's not a shred of truth. He said afterward that he wanted to pummel everyone giving the presentation. And this was like a 2-hour question and answer session. The audience members are asking these investigators how could have they reached these conclusions about the direction and the speed of the plane. And they said to the delegation members, and then the delegation members said that they didn't have the technical expertise to answer. This is what they're telling the surviving family members. And in the Malaysia's main city of Kuala Lumpur, meanwhile, Hussein, the big shot, he says, oh, please be calm and please be understanding on both sides. Time will heal emotions that are running high. We fully understand how you feel. For the Chinese families, they must also understand that we in Malaysia also lost our loved ones. And there are so many other nations that have lost their loved ones. This is the best that they had. And lately, like you were saying, and we'll give the surviving family members $5,000 per family member that perished in the disappearance, not the crash, of the flight.
Mm-hmm. So I wonder if $5,000 will even cover funeral expenses for some of these families.
Not really. I mean, you know, so far the investigators have ruled out nothing. This includes mechanical and electrical failure, hijacking, sabotage, terrorism, or any issues related to the mental health of the pilots or anybody else on board. I'm so disgusted with this whole thing.
So they've ruled out nothing. They've also concluded nothing, and basically they keep the story alive for, you know, however long they need to.
They basically say, okay, we're going to let you figure what you want and fill in the blanks. All right. So anyway, folks, you know, we could talk about this all day just like everybody else. We just want to get our 2 cents worth in. I'm RaunchFoxxx. We're going to be back in just a couple minutes, and we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about male and female relationships, do's and don'ts, dear Abbeys. We'll talk about some weed. We'll talk about all kind of good stuff. So you stick around right here on the Foxxcast, and we'll be back right after this.
We'll be back with more verbal abuse from the world's largest net shock jock, 6'10" RaunchFoxxx. He's nuts over you. Well, actually, most people.
Welcome back to the Miss Beautiful Morals pageant. We're now ready for the question and answer portion. Miss Riyadh, your question comes from American celebrity blogger Perez Hilton.
Miss Riyadh, in the U.S., Vermont recently became the 4th state to legalize same-sex marriage. Do you think Saudi Arabia should follow suit? Why or why not? Ow! Hey, who hit me with that rock? Ow! Hey, stop! Don't you know who I am? Ow! Oh, stop! Ow! Oh!
We'll be back with more from the Miss Beautiful Morals pageant after this stoning. Get it! Get it! Get it!
The RaunchFoxxx Foxxcast, invading countries everywhere. If you don't speak a language, what do you think you're listening to?
I've been a little paranoid reporting more cases and the illness it brings. And each time they talk, they say the germs they can cling. So I go scrubbing and rinsing when I run to the sink. My honey, my baby, you don't want virus on yourself. I think you'll probably be fine. Just wash your hands for your health. Wash your hands, baby. Scrub them good. Keep them clean. Ooh, baby, baby, baby.
International Space Station, this is Mission Control. Over.
Yeah, I copy you, big dummy. How'd you like me to copy my two fists on your face?
Roger, ISS. Do you have space junk update? Over.
Yeah, I see a piece of junk right now. A little next door. And his name is Julio.
ISS, are you feeling okay? Over.
No, I'm not okay. Lamont went home on the last shuttle, and now it's just me and my co-pilot Grady. Great googly moogly, friend. I'm sorry. I think I ate the last tube of Salisbury steak. See, I'm gonna die of loneliness. You hear that, Elizabeth? I'm coming to join you, honey. I'm having the big one. Here I come, Elizabeth.
Barack and Joe have been real busy lately.
Bailouts, stimulus packages, and now a pandemic. Oh.
Now they're fired up and ready to blow off some steam.
Hey, Barack, you thinking what I'm thinking? Road trip!
Barack and Joe go to White Castle.
I'm so hungry I could eat like 20 of those burgers, man.
Dude, I will see your 20 burgers and raise you 5 orders of fries.
Barack and Joe go to White Castle.
Thank you. Come again.
All right, everybody. It's a RaunchFoxxx Foxxcast right here, RenegadeTalkRadio.com. Yours truly, Raunch Fox. We got Natty C back in action. And our newest member, Mr. PAULLYWOOD from the East Coast. We always got to keep that East Coast connection going out here, folks. Yes, we do. Now, we're going to be talking about...
I have opposed such a measure. I believe we should have a discussion about it.
Okay. Did you know who that was? Did you hear that, Paulie?
That sounded like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Listen to this. Keep listening.
Maybe put on some Pink Floyd, sit on some beanbag chairs, light some candles, get some sour cream and onion chips with some dip, man, some beef jerky, some peanut butter. Get some Haagen-Dazs ice cream bars. Make sure chocolate. Gotta have chocolate, man. Some popcorn, red popcorn. Graham crackers with marshmallows. The little marshmallows and little chocolate bars.
What do you think's making him feel like that?
Oh, it has to be the ganja.
And we can make s'mores, man. Also, celery, grape jelly, Captain Crunch.
I think Natty said she felt like she should have done this just a minute ago anyway. I'm not sure. Am I right, Natty? Didn't you say, oh, shit, you wish you took a hit or two?
Yeah, actually. I really
Okay, well, hey, hang on. There's more.
Little crunch berries. I like those. And pizzas. We need 2 big pizzas, man. Everything on them. And Funyuns. Yeah.
Yes, this has been a quip from the Arnold Marijuana press conference. And the reason that we're throwing this in right now is we're going to talk about the this legalization of cannabis, obviously. And the question is, how will this green wave of cannabis acceptance reshape America? All right, that's what we're going to talk about, because legal cannabis, it's literally raising spirits and revenues up in Colorado, helping the Mile High City re-earn its name, obviously, but they're thumbing their noses at federal lawmakers by legalizing both medical and recreational cannabis use. Colorado lawmakers, they are anticipating taking in about $134 million in taxes on legal pot sales this year. That's just the beginning. The high revenues from getting high got a major lift from Attorney General Eric Holder's announcement in January that the U.S. Treasury officials wishing to cash in by taxing those stoner dollars are going to issue new regulations regarding banking services for state-approved cannabis concessions. Now, the banks in those states where the pot is legal for whether it's medical or recreational is going to be able to offer business loans to pot entrepreneurs, hold revenues from lucrative marijuana businesses without winding up in a slammer. You know, alongside with many of the 750,000 Americans that they bust every year for, the possession of weed. But instead of spending $10 billion annually fighting the battle, which is futile, for pot criminalization, the feds now hope to top up the nation's budget with a gravy train of revenue. So time's going to tell whether this becomes a new revenue stream or not for funding schools or for roads or bongs for bombs proposition, so you will. I mean, Obama, he admitted that smoking marijuana, he did it in the past. He threw his hat into the green ring just days before Holder's announcement with a seemingly off-the-cuff yet very well orchestrated set of comments. He's like, well, pot's a bad habit and a vice, but no more dangerous than alcohol. He said that the seismic shift in the federal position on cannabis has sent tremors through the alcoholic beverage industry. I mean, think about it. Oh, my God, it's going to be legal. We're going to take a hit on that. The members worry that at least some of the American booze revenues are going to go up in smoke. And the slogan, "This bud's for you," already means something new. You know what I'm saying? This bud's for you. What do you think, Paulie? Do you partake?
Well, all right, here's a couple of thoughts I have. I mean, first of all, think about all the people who are currently incarcerated. Now, if they go ahead and erase or change these laws, are these people going to get released for the crimes that they committed in the past?
Good point.
And, personally, we're going to have to set a smoking age limit, or I would imagine they're going to debate between 18 and 21 as to who can purchase. In my own personal experience, this is all coming about 21, 22 years too late. I was kicked out of school for smoking weed. I lost a job once for smoking weed. And, I think it's long overdue. But it also doesn't surprise me either. We're getting to a point in this country where we kind of need to revitalize our economy, and this would be one hell of a cash crop. I mean, one hell of a cash crop.
Of course, and it has to end up that way anyway. Now think about what he just said, Natty. He said, quote, "I was kicked out of school for smoking weed. I lost a job for smoking weed." He is a renegade, and he belongs on this show. Do you consider yourself a renegade of sorts? Because we never really talked about the wild side of you. It's always been all professional and corporate. But, you got, obviously, I wouldn't have you on the show if I didn't detect some wildness and rebelness about you as well. What can you relate to us that says, yeah, I belong in this renegade nation?
I'm a renegade. Honestly, if I could smoke with a clean conscience, and we've talked about that in the last show, I think, I absolutely would. I'm a renegade in other ways, more of the adult vein of things, a more alternative lifestyle that I choose to participate in. But certainly from a smoking perspective, I am all about it. I fully endorse it, tax the shit out of it, fund schools, programs, whatever it is you need to do. And frankly, Paulie, to your point, release those quote unquote criminals that have been incarcerated for possession of it. And I think they're owed some redemption, frankly, at the end of the day. But yes, to answer your question, Raunch, I am a renegade. And we'll get a little bit more into how I am and why I am.
Yeah, because of the alternative stuff alone. I mean, I can't even pitch you with a strap on, But I'm okay. I'm not shy, I'm easily led. I'm just not a scat man. All right, we'll stop right there. I got my limits.
Paulie, I'm right there with you. I'm not a scat girl either.
That's it. So, Paulie, I guess we're going to leave the Cleveland Steamer up to you, my man.
Another thing I'm thinking about this, Raunch, is that once we do get into an avenue of legalization and everything, one of the last things I'm going to want is the government having their hands in growing and distributing and pricing and all that other stuff. I mean, when you think about it, a lot of your dealers out there are probably going to be opposed to the idea of the legalization.
Of course.
That's their source of income, and now it's once there's the availability at a convenience store to go in and pick up a couple of grams of this or that or the other thing, all your dealers out there are going to have to go out and find legitimate work.
Well, I mean, you think about the WHO, the World Health Organization. They did a report all the way back in 1997 on weed. It showed the grass is far safer than alcohol or tobacco. And, of course, the lawmakers, they fretted it over the skunk-scented weed, obviously. But federal eyes now, they're focusing on perhaps, billions of dollars in annual cannabis tax revenue. So yep. I'm thinking now, when you start seeing billions of dollars in tax revenue, the panic might subside a little bit. And they might realize now that the green can actually produce green. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and this country needs all the help it can get financially.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the end of alcohol prohibition. You know, the end of pot prohibition is going to reduce criminal involvement in the pot trade like any other drug. Pot will have its responsible users, it'll have heavy users, and it'll have its abusers like anything else. But like that curly-haired folk singer up in New York, he said, "Oh, the times are a-changing." So, yes, they are, and that's exactly what's happening.
But then, Raunch, when you think about it, are we then solving one problem and creating another, right? Because to Paulie's point, then all the pot dealers are going to have to find a real job. Unlikely, right? Are they going to start selling something?
You mean
else,
all those dealers? Yeah, all those dealers that file quarterly taxes. Yeah, I know. It's going to be a tough way to go for them, I guess. You know, because gee, now what are they going to do? So I don't know. Maybe they'll issue them a license. You know, like a CB radio or a ham operator or a corner hot dog salesman. You want to sell weed? You got to get your license. You know. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? It's going to be pretty accessible though. Over the next 5 years, you're going to see drastic changes. All right, so that's the greening of America, everybody. Now you're old enough to know the name Dear Abby, the columnist, right, Natty? And everybody's heard of Dear Abby in some way, shape, or form. Abby Gail Van Buren, I think her name is, right?
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, they had a report. They said just a quick little story. I thought it was funny. It said the 5 best Dear Abby comebacks. You know, because people used to always write her all the time. So I'm going to give you the question that they asked Abby, and I'm going to let you hear the response. And I'm going to let you pretend, Natty, that you are Dear Abby for a minute. All right, so, Paulie, let's let her have some fun with this. So, Dear Natty. Dear Natty. Dear Natty, my wife sleeps in the raw. Then she showers, she brushes her teeth, she fixes our breakfast, and she's still naked. Now, we're newlyweds, and there are just the 2 of us, so I suppose there's nothing really wrong with it. What do you think, Natty? Love, Ed. My name is Ed. So, Dear Ed.
Oh,
so what would you say to that, Natty? Yes.
Dear Ed. Dear Ed. Don't complain. Because the moment that your wife puts on 15 pounds, those days are gone. So enjoy it while you can.
And Abby said, her answer was, Dear Ed, it's okay. But it's okay with me, but tell her to put on an apron when she's frying bacon. And it's so weird because, you know, I'm 6'10", and I remember one time I was running around naked and I was frying bacon. Let me tell you, I think you get the visual. And then I had the friggin' blind open in the kitchen, and the neighbor, this chick next door, she loved watching me stir soup.
You weren't making gazpacho, were you?
Anyway, so Dear Natty, my name is Bess. Natty, what is the difference between a wife and a mistress?
Wife takes care of all the boring stuff, paying the bills, cooking the meals, shooing the kids off to this, that, and the other, and the mistress gets all the fun stuff.
Okay, so Abby's answer to what's the difference between a wife and a mistress, she simply said, night and day. Pretty slick.
Clever and cute.
Yeah. All right, so Paulie, put on your vaginal equipment for a minute. Now you're a chick. Dear Paula, about 4 months ago, the house across the street was sold to a father and son, or so we thought. We later learned it was an older man about 50 and a young fellow about 24. This was a respectable neighborhood before the odd couple moved in. They have all sorts of strange-looking company. Men who look like women, women who look like men, blacks, whites, Indians. Yesterday, I even saw 2 nuns go in. Abby, these weirdos are wrecking our property values. How can we improve the quality of this once respectable neighborhood? Signed up in arms.
Move out. You're the one bringing down the value of the property.
That's the answer. She said you could move. Good job, Paula.
Wow. My vagina is in tune.
Cocky little fucker. All right. So, Dear Natty, I've always wanted to have my family history traced, but I can't afford to spend a lot of money to do it. Any suggestions? I want to have my family history traced, but I can't afford to spend that money. What should I do?
Ask your mother? I don't know. That's crazy. I have no idea. Ask your mother. Ask your father. Ask some questions.
All right. Well, she said her answer was, if you want to get your family history traced, then simply run for public office. That's what I think. Yeah, that'll get it done pretty quick, I'd have to say. Dear Paula, our son married a girl when he was in the service. They were married in February. She had an 8.5-pound baby girl in August. She said the baby was premature. Can an 8.5-pound baby be this premature? Signed, wanting to know.
What exactly are you doing with that baby, and what is the prematurity we're talking about?
The baby, she said, was premature. But it was 8.5 pounds. Do you think that baby was premature? What's the answer to that? Abby said, I'll tell you real simply. Abby said the baby was on time, but the wedding was late. Forget it. So anyway, those were Abby's. And back then, you remember she started. What was it? I think she started in the mid to late 50s. So those were kind of risque answers back in the day. Yeah, absolutely. So Natty. Let's talk a bit about the relationships. All right, There's some things out there. They say there's everyday behavior that kills a relationship. Now, from a woman's standpoint, then Paulie, I'm going to ask you too. What do you think in a relationship could be happening that could actually kill a relationship? Everyday behavior, nothing like kinky, special, alternative, just everyday behavior. What do you think some of those things would be to kill a relationship?
Everyone's got their very basic needs. I'll use myself as an example. For
Please.
me, I'm happy if my partner is an equal player as far as getting shit done around the house, and if I feel like
getting
he's
shit
not,
done,
then that can damage the relationship. Something as simple as doing laundry or washing dishes, that's porn for me. And if that's missing, then we have a problem.
Okay, incidentally, Paulie, she's talking about her better half, and of course, yes, she likes to be happy. In fact, she's very happy. She's so happy that he has a nickname. What's your nickname for that guy?
Hung fat.
Yes, it's her little Asian lover, Hung Fat, Paulie. I just want to make you understand where her head is, or where his head is. Yeah.
He's my crazy Asian stalker, otherwise known as the Crasian.
The Crasian, yes, the Crasian, the crazy Asian stalker. He'll be making some cameo appearances here on the Foxxcast as well. He's got some interesting points of view, and he'll bring him in, and we'll get him to expose Natty for everything she's worth and more. Actually, they're saying constantly rolling your eyes during fights may be a sign that your relationship is doomed. You roll your eyes like, whatever, that type of thing. This is according to Happify. Happify is a digital gaming platform that allows you to train your brain into becoming happy. So write that down, folks. Happify, Happify. Digital gaming platform allows your brain to be trained to become happy. Now, the company's new infographic, The Science of a Happy Relationship, is based on research which has been compiled by the in-house team of neuroscientists and psychologists. It shows that certain behaviors can determine whether or not the couples have what it takes to achieve long-term happiness. But personally, I got shocked when I saw such a tiny reaction was listed as an indicator of an unhappy reunion. But I did some digging. It all started to make sense, So rolling your eyes. If it's so destructive, it's so belittling, it's actually dismissive of the other person. And when it comes down to it, rolling your eyes sends the message that in the moment, you really don't respect them either. And that's a bad sign because when they surveyed over 10,000 happily married women and interviewed couples happily married for 25 years or more, and this was in 12 different countries and 6 continents, not just here. The most important ingredient in the recipe for a happy marriage or relationship was mutual respect. Period.
Well, rolling your eyes is really just one step above the response. I'm sorry, what was that again? I wasn't listening, honey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or are you still talking?
Yeah, well, they also say you can go cold turkey. Like when you feel frustration mounting, simply look down. Don't roll your eyes down in disgust. Just focus them down in humility. And then when you slip up, you might find if it's an ingrained reaction and just say so, or just verbally acknowledge when it happens and then apologize. Habits die more quickly when you practice bringing your conscious awareness to them. So, yeah, I rolled my eyes, but that's not really what I thought. Yeah. So that's I don't know. Do you roll your eyes? You ever caught? I'm not gonna lie to you. I've done it. But I've probably done it because I was in the middle of something and felt like I was getting distracted and I didn't give the person the fair attention that they deserved at that particular moment. How about you, Nat?
I don't really roll my eyes. I give the side eye or I walk away.
The side eye?
Yeah. Like that kind of squinty, look. I don't really roll my eyes.
And then, of course, Hung Fat says the only way to resolve that is to give you the bloodshot eye. Okay, I get it. All right, well, that's good. Paulie, how about you? I don't know what your relationship status is now, but if you ever, are you actively with someone? Are you playing the field, or have you been in a relationship where you caught yourself rolling your eyes or doing something condescending to your partner?
Well, I'm about a year and a half out of a relationship that was 10 years long.
Wow.
It was a decent relationship. I don't know that I would necessarily say that I ever caught myself rolling my eyes, but there were times when I know I made the mistake of not really picking up on the key of what was being said to me, the crux of the point that was being made. But I think, like I say, I think the worst thing that you could do, beyond rolling your eyes is to just be completely dismissive and to be non-participating. I mean, at least it's a response. At least, it acknowledges that you're a part of the conversation.
Well, I tell you, just for a brief minute there, except for that accent, you kind of sound like Dr. Phil. Do you feel that you are condescending to your primary vaginal receptacle?
I had definitely been, and I regret it, but definitely was condescending. I had a bit of an attitude. I felt that I was a lot smarter than the person that I was with, and the truth of the matter is, all of those things aside, it's a mutual give and take, and you have to respect someone's opinion. You have to respect their feelings. Otherwise, you're not really in a relationship. You're just kind of a bully. It's like a form of bullying.
Well, speaking of bullying, let me ask you a question. Both of you, ladies first. Were either of you spanked in your early years?
Absolutely got the shit kicked out of me. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
And
not a spanking. I'm talking whatever was within arm's reach, whether it be a belt, whether it be a spatula, whether it be a fucking frying pan. I got that
keep
shit.
talking. Keep talking. Yeah. Let it go. Yeah, go ahead. Go. A fucking spatula, she said. A fucking frying pan. Go ahead. What else?
Oh, yeah. Whatever it was that was nearby, I got it. Absolutely. And honestly, with or without reason, I got it. And so, yes, I was absolutely the victim.
You're reading my mind. You said with or without reason. I was going to say, what was the cause of these attacks?
Often nothing. Just having a very bipolar parental unit, if you will. So
slight dysfunction, which many of us have.
Yep, a little bit.
How far back do you go that you can remember this?
Youngest is probably about 5 or 6.
Okay, well that's when you start remembering. Do you think it happened before that, like when you cried as a baby, or?
I'm told that it was, even as young as like a toddler.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck this, I'm buying titties.
I don't remember that. I mean, whether that's selective or that's just a byproduct of the fact that you don't remember that far back. But yeah, I'm told that I got quote unquote spanked quite young.
So did you ever get physically damaged to the point of going to a hospital or a doctor, or?
No, my situation was pretty unique in that Mom was very docile and fearful, and so no, everything kind of stayed in the house.
Whether you were hurt or not?
Yes.
Ooh, wow. Yeah. Paulie, I just opened a can of worms. I'm sorry, man. I mean, Jesus Christ. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because now they're saying some things that parents who spank a child in the first few years of his or her life may trigger a vicious cycle of misbehavior. And this is a study that was published in the Journal of Youth and Adolescence. Researchers studied 1,900 families participating in the Fragile Families and Child Well-Being Study. And this was a program where they involved children born in large American cities between 1998 and 2000. 3/4 of the children studied were born to unmarried parents, and 25% were to married parents. And each family study that they took part in the assessment shortly after the birth of the child, and then again when the child was approximately 1, 3, 5, and 9 years old. So, Natty, this falls like right into what you were saying. So parents were also questioned about whether their child received spankings, or if they acted aggressively, or they broke rules, or they acted antagonistically. Only 28% of the parents reported spanking children in their first year of life. 57% admitted to spanking their children when they were 3 years old. 53% admitted to spanking their child when they were 5. 49% admitted to spanking their children when they were 9. Now, there were parents who reported their children as having more behavioral problems. They also spanked their children more as they grew older. So, how about as you were approaching your teenage years? Nah.
No. I would say it. The physicality probably stopped when I was 10 or 11.
But the damage had already been done, so as far as psychologically.
Oh, no question. And I was a good kid. I mean, I was a straight A student, gifted program. I had my first job when I was 12 years old. I mean, type A all the way. And so I can't say that it created any sort of misbehavior tendencies in me at all. In fact, quite the opposite. It got me on the right path.
Well,
and honestly, and I haven't replicated it with my own kids. I've got 3, and sure as shit, I've not ever laid a hand on any of them.
And I'm the same way as far as like drinking and smoking and stuff. I'm the only one in my family that didn't drink and slam beers or chain smoke. I mean, everybody in my family was a smoker but me. So I remembered that stuff. And I remember when I tried it, I put a mirror out in the garage and I put a cigarette in my mouth and got sick as a dog. And then my grandfather and my sister's husband and my dad, they thought it was so funny when I was a little guy to say, "Come on, boy, here, take a hit of this cigar." And of course I'd barf. But getting back to hitting children, I mean, you can think of this as an escalating arms race. I mean, this is where the parent gets more coercive and the child gets more aggressive. So now you got a cycle, the parents in one way, the child's getting another way, and this stuff is actually going to show up in later years. These processes actually, they get started early, but there's literally a lot of continuity over time. So I'm going to tell you something. You got to make sure you listen to this podcast and listen to how your voice changed and how your energy changed when I brought this up out of nowhere, because you didn't even know I was going to be talking about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want you to hear your voice, because we're talking about continuity over time. And psycho, or as Anthony Robbins says, neuroassociative psychology, your head is a bunch of jukebox buttons, and I pushed a button in your head. You tensed up, you talk loud, and you sent some emotion through the web here in regards to some stuff that happened to you. Now, researchers are saying that spanking and misbehavior seem to feed into one another. They suspect that spanking a child in the first year of life can trigger the start of the cycle. During early toddler years, that parents probably need to get more counseling or advice on strategies to manage the kid's behavior without resorting to spanking. But again, I guess the best way today to describe it is they say that continuity over time. And I'm glad that, obviously you're not doing it with your own children. But, yeah, I felt it. I felt it when you told me. That's all I'm going to say about that.
It's a real thing. And I'll tell you what, to everyone that's listening, if you think that spanking your kids is the right thing to do, I can tell you absolutely it is not. And that is my personal opinion. But I do not condone it. It actually, frankly, drives me crazy when people say, "Oh, so-and-so's kid is so ill-behaved. If they got a good whooping, they'd probably correct their behavior." I respectfully, and in some cases, unrespectfully, disrespectfully disagree. I mean, it's not the right thing to do, period. There are many other strategies to deal with behaviors.
Well, I feel you. So the alternative lifestyle thing, is there any spanking involved?
Yes.
See, that's a whole different hot story right there, but we can share that at another time. Paulie.
This is a good topic, Raunch, because I got to tell you, I think I got my first beating. Well, I wouldn't really call it a beating, but my first experience with the belt when I was 7. I got corporal punishment administered by both my mother and father. My mother used a wooden spoon. I had an Italian mother, and she used that on me until I was about, I want to say maybe 10 was the last time she took it to my behind.
3 years of a wooden spoon, you say?
Yes. Well, the wooden spoon was used by Mom, and until she broke it over my ass one day and I was laughing at it, she figured out that it wasn't going to work anymore. But with the father, on the other hand, father was kind of a scary guy. Not to the point where he was irrational or unreasonable. I definitely believe that I kind of earned my punishment a number of times. I think the last time that I felt the belt across my butt, I was 14, and I kind of believe that I earned it each and every time. I will say that this study is almost like a looking glass into my own childhood, because I was also a discipline problem throughout my childhood and school years. I was horrible.
Right. Do you remember? Well, you were 7. What did you do? What did you remember when you got hit with that belt at 7? What did you do that made them do that to you?
I wrote the word shit on the bathroom wall when I was in first grade, and showed it to one of my friends. I said, "Hey, look what I just wrote." And he went and told the teacher, and the teacher made the call home. And I remember this to the day I died. I was in my room waiting for my father to come home, dreading the moment. Just dreading the moment. And
I remember that feeling.
Sure, absolutely. And I mean, it didn't just go right into a beating. Because of my father and who he was and what he did, it started with the third degree, and that was something that persisted throughout my discipline problems as a child. I would always get questioned thoroughly, and to the point where I felt like I was a bit of a suspect in a crime looking back.
So you got interrogated.
Absolutely. And now the upside of that was that I came to understand that there were a few things about my father that he absolutely did not want me to do, and among them was lying to him. He did not tolerate dishonesty. Unfortunately, what that did over the course of a childhood was turn me into a very good liar. And I'd never really straightened out my act to the point where I'd stay out of trouble. I would honest to God say that from the time I was in 7th grade until the time I graduated, I was at least suspended once a year, occasionally for fighting, but I was a substitute teacher's worst nightmare. I mean, the second that there was a change in the authority in the classroom, I acted up, and I was a nightmare to deal with. I would say, the class clown kind of fits the definition.
Well, I was the class clown in high school. I was, and I mean, nobody asked me. I remember one time my grandfather hit me with a belt, and the buckle broke, and he got more mad at the buckle breaking on his new belt than he was at me. God damn it, boy, I just broke the belt buckle. So I got spanked a few times. And you're a guy, and then Natty, maybe this happens with girls too, but there's always a point in a man's life, a boy growing up, he wants to know if he can kick his father's ass.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Paulie.
Well, I think come the age of 16, I think my father actually began to mellow out, and also we did, literally see eye to eye at that point. So I think it came to a point where maybe he, didn't want to risk me, snapping and retaliating. But
so you finally at 16 were feeling your oats and said, you know what, I might have to kick his ass.
But the truth of the matter is, I was always so intimidated, just psychologically intimidated by him. He's such a bright man, and he knew how to make you feel an inch high with just speaking to you. I had a very healthy respect for him, just no respect whatsoever for any other form of authority. Now, I think one of the things that the psychologists would say that contributes to a child continuing to be a discipline problem is that over the course of time they begin to equate that discipline with a form of love, with an expression of love, and they say, well, a child doesn't feel like they're getting the attention, and so they act out, and then when they get that belt across the back, or when they get yelled at like that, they're reaffirmed that that the parent still cares about them, but is just very, very upset with them. So it can kind of contribute to that, childhood and lifehood of being a bit of a renegade.
Exactly. So exactly. Well, I opened a can of worms, and I find it a little bit out now. Ladies and germs of Renegade Nation, we found out about Natty a little bit more. We learned about the beatings. We learned about the alternative lifestyles. We learned about Paulie and his fear of his dad and the intimidation. And me, of course, as usual. And, of course, most of you would have to agree, I am the perfect angel. So anyway, listen, everybody. Be sure to listen to Richie and Marta here on RenegadeTalkRadio.com. They don't sugarcoat shit. They put it out there all the time. We are really, really tickled to have the thousands and thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of downloads on Renegade Talk Radio, formerly RenegadeTalk.fm. And you can find us on Podomatic. You can find us on Stitcher. You can find us on YouTube. You can go to... not YouTube, rather, but iTunes. And actually, we do have a YouTube site now. We're going to start uploading stuff there. You can also find us on RenegadeTalkRadio.com. I have my own site, RaunchFoxxcast.com. with the current podcasts, and we're going to be featuring people on our show, and you can get up close and personal and find out a little bit more about them as the weeks go on. We've got a lot going on. You know, we're sex, politics, rock and roll, UFOs, weed, sports, news sports, the Foxxcast. We're going to be bringing you the stuff that you don't hear on everyday radio. You know, there's other people out there like the Glenn Beck and the Blaze and the Alex Jones, and with Carl on our network. And if you don't know who he is, go to RenegadeTalkRadio.com and check it out now, because we've got our own. And he's more than a diamond in the rough. He's already exposed. He's an ex-Navy SEAL, and he's kicking ass and taking names. And I don't want to steal any of his thunder. You're going to have to find out by going to the site, listening to some of his previous podcasts, and knowing exactly who one of the big players is on our team as well. So, with that, Paulie, how do you feel, man? I mean, our show is, we've come to a close. We've talked about it a lot. And how do you feel, buddy?
Well, I'm really happy to have been a part of this. I thought I was going to be much more of a nervous wreck. I think I'll get better as I go along. But, you know, honestly, it was a pleasure to meet and to work with Natalie and to work with you. You made it really easy for me. I hope I continue to fit in, and I hope I can continue to contribute.
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, Natty, what do you think? Should we let him try again? Maybe he'll do better next time. What do you think? I don't know.
Can we keep him, please?
You want to keep him?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, you got a double F chick with alternative lifestyles that likes you. You know, if I were you, I would simply just stand up and go.
Well, and I'll tell you what, Raunch, she has an Asian boyfriend. I think actually have a chance.
See, that's a loud clap. Nobody heard you, but say it again real quick, because we're ready to check out of here.
Well, she has an Asian boyfriend, so I may actually have a chance if we stick around here.
Oh, you got a lot to learn, Grasshopper. Anyway, thanks for kicking it, PAULLYWOOD. Thank you, Natty C. We're going to do this every week. We're going to be bringing you some really cool guests as well. It's only going to keep getting better and stronger here on Renegade Talk Radio. So until next time, everybody, remember, when you think life is bad, a crowded elevator smells different to a midget. I mean, a small person. I'll take it back. A small person. I'm RaunchFoxxx. This is the RaunchFoxxx Foxxcast, Renegade Talk Radio. We'll see you next week. Have a great week, everybody.